Chris Savage is the CEO of Wistia. And if you're in the video or marketing world, you've almost definitely heard of Wistia. And if you haven't, it is a video hosting platform for businesses. And you might be thinking, well, isn't that just YouTube? It's not just YouTube. YouTube operates differently. And so if you're embedding YouTube videos on your website, it's not the way to go. YouTube has a goal. YouTube wants you to stay on YouTube. And so when you host a video on your website using YouTube, at the very end, you're going to get thumbnails, suggested content that takes you off of your website and back over to YouTube, back to content that isn't yours. And God forbid it rolls in with an ad. Not a good look. Wistia has all kinds of controls, and Chris saw this as a major opportunity many years ago. Now, he grew up in a family deeply involved in technology and also went to school for filmmaking. So he combined the two of these, and that was the beginning of the company. But that's just my summary. Let's have Chris start by telling his story. Well, one of the things when I was researching you was I was curious, how excited were your parents when they learned you were going to go to college for art semiotics?
Well, I think they were excited that I was going to college. Unfortunately, I went to Brown, where you can create your own concentration. They don't call them majors. There's a very wide range of things I thought I was going to do. So I thought I was going to do computer science. Then I thought I was going to do psychology. For a brief moment, I thought I was going to do econ, and then found my way to the closest thing I could find to like film and video production, which was art semiotics. So art semiotics is like the study of signs and symbols. And the film program at Brown was like very theoretical for the first half and then hands-on for the second half. And so I basically just did this because it was like my best shot at making stuff, and it was cool. And I also, I wrote papers about like stardom and what does it mean? Where does it come from? And why society and culture reacts different ways to people. It was kind of funny because it's so heady. And now today I find that I'm like having these conversations like all the time, as like everyone can be an influencer and everyone can be on camera.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to create a brand that's connected that's connected also to a face and not just to like a logo? And so in a bizarre turn of events, I actually apply what I learned and talked about, which I didn't expect. But yeah, I think they were just happy that I found something I was excited about.
Yeah. I had to look up the term, because I was like,
Most people are like, what is this? So I'm like, it's just Brown being weird and different mostly. I 100% agree with that. But yeah, it's funny.
So the hope was to develop basically a video program in school, and that led you, and I know you've gotten even some early recognition within your filmmaking work, but eventually that took a twist into technology. What did that fork in the road look like?
Yeah, so I think to really answer that question, it's worth knowing like how I grew up. So my dad was a computer science professor, and he was at Brown. It's, I ended up going there. Tuition is a lot, much less expensive when you blah, blah, blah. But I grew up in a household that was like with like an early adopter. Like my dad was an early adopter, and new things would come out. He would get really excited. He would take them home and show us. Like I remember vividly the day that the first DVD player was out, like at Best Buy, we went to go get it and we got a DVD. I remember when we got like a Bose Wave radio, which was like this little radio that had like this booming sound. And like, I grew up around that. And my older brother is a software engineer, and he worked at Microsoft pretty early. He's 14 years older than me. My older sister's ex-husband was extremely early at Microsoft, and they would come back and I would play beta versions of like the flight simulator. And like, I knew the Xbox was coming out before it came out. And like, I just grew up in this, like around all these people who were talking about technology and dreaming about it. And I almost like, I felt like I was like training for something I didn't really know. And like, I programmed in high school and thought that would be something that I would do. I found my way to film. I really loved it. I'd never been so excited about something. And one of the interesting things was working on this like feature-length documentary with a really tiny team. We were really like 3 core people, and we got it to theaters and we won festivals and all that stuff. And so I watched this tiny little team with an idea turn into something that made other people feel something, that made other people react to it. And I was just like 21 when that was happening. And so it's like coming from this early adopter house and watching this like tiny little startup team do something. It was then at that moment that YouTube launched. And my co-founder and I, Brendan, who were best friends from college, we saw this. And one of the insights that we had was, oh, this thing is taking off. And it's taking off as not filmmaking content, which is what I thought it would have been. Because I thought the only people who could make videos and get stuff online were going to be people who had like the cameras and knew how to edit. And it was mostly pirated content. It was bizarre UGC clips and stuff. And that was really surprising. And then as we dug into it, YouTube was doing all the encoding for you in the cloud. Yeah. And they were using open source tools to do the encoding. And that was the other big aha was, hey, before that, if you want to get something online, you had to know how to encode in QuickTime and get your export settings right and know that some tiny percentage of your audience will be able to watch the video. Most people couldn't. Or you'd have to encode into Flash, but you'd have to get your own version of Flash and make your own player. You'd have to use real player that looked like crap. And they were encoding everything into Flash for you, and it worked on everybody's desktop, like right out of the gate. And those were the aha moments where like, wait a second, this is like a technology change that these folks are taking advantage of. Like, there will probably be lots of other uses for online video. We should start something around that. And so that caused us to like this like naive belief that we could do it. And seeing those trends like caused us to start. And it took us a year to figure out that, hey, if we help businesses that need to use video, they mostly don't use video that much. So they value it a lot if you can make it easy, and they're willing to pay you what we thought was a lot. And now we were just like, this is it. And now for context, that was like 7. So we were right that this stuff was going to happen. And we were so early and so wrong about how long it would take. Like I thought in 2010, every company is going to be using video. And even today, that's not true, but way more are using it than used to.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I think, it probably wasn't for 4 years after that kind of like the DSLR revolution happened within filmmaking, and the accessibility really started to ramp up. And there was people obviously who believed in you guys at an early stage to begin to raise some funds. What aspect of what you were doing did they believe in? Because it does sound like it was a much longer roadmap than you expected. And then how did that come about?
Yeah, so that's such a good question, because I've asked myself this question, like, why did they give us this money? Like, and when we raised our first angel round, which was in 2008, we raised $650,000. I think our total monthly revenue at that time was like $3,000 a month or something, which is super tiny, right? But like looking back on it, we actually had like in that 3,000 and in the list of companies that we'd got ourselves talking to, we had a medical device company using Wistia to privately share videos. We had a film and video production house that was using us. We had gotten Cirque du Soleil to sign on, and they were using us for all the videos. When someone applies to be in Cirque, at that time, instead of shipping DVDs, they would upload like their fire breathing videos to an account, a Wistia account, and their team would look at it. And then we had like a $2 billion public telecommunications company. We were talking to HBO. We were talking to PBS about dailies. And so I think it was like, yes, our revenue was tiny and we were so young and we'd never done it before. But I think a lot of the brands we were talking to is such a broad set of brands. And people actually liked the product, even though it was like so simple, that I think there was actually some signal that we were onto something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, and I remember thinking like, of course we're onto something, like, but looking back on it and being put into the position of those investors to have to make that call, I don't know even if I could. It was just like 2 unproven people, $3,000 a month in revenue, a space that hasn't existed before. Like, do you think it's going to work or not? I don't know.
And they bought in, obviously, right? That's part of the story. But then I have seen a lot about this move that you guys did to take on debt to actually get the company back out of the hands of investors. And the best I know, there was really a disalignment on how growth should happen, especially related to this idea of, venture. They want their money back out. It's growth at all costs. What did that look like in your guys' case?
Yeah, so investors want money back. Duh. Like, and I think, but it's easy to forget that. I think people, sometimes it can be so easy to raise a round. You don't even know why it's happening. Like, I feel like I've talked to lots of entrepreneurs. They go start getting interest, or they have some customers and they do raise money. And then they're like surprised everyone wants to return. And what happened in our case, and I'll try to keep this short because I've covered this. If you want more details on this, like we've written stuff on Wistia, and go find the long version. But the short version is this is about 10 years after we started. we had 1 year where we had 3 different companies approach us about buying Wistia, buying the company. And my co-founder, Brendan, and I took these offers seriously, in part because they're all coming at once. And they were all companies actually we respected and knew. And we got into the process of looking to sell, and then had an offer in hand that would be one of those like life-changing offers, which, by the way, is like when we first started this business, we really thought we were going to do this for like 6 months and then we would sell the company like that or fail. Like that's literally what I thought it was, you know? So this is again why we started, we'll sell this business. Now we're sitting there facing this opportunity to sell. And one of the surprising things was, of course, you start asking yourself questions like, well, what would we do after we sold? And well, Brandon and I are looking at this. We're in our early 30s. We're like, well, if we sold, we would work together again. We have like a unique partnership. We love working together. So like we would definitely start another company, probably another like software company. That's what we know. What space do we get into? Well, video is changing a lot. You just talked about DSLRs. Like, you know, it's like 2011, 2012, like interchangeable lenses, DSLRs handling video. The iPhone comes out handling video. We're just starting to see video recording in the browser start to work around this time. And we're like, man, this is going to be like a really big change. We'd probably go back into that space. Then we started talking about like, who would our customers be and what type of brand would we build? We'd build a really creative brand. We'd build something that's really long-term focused. We wouldn't put ourselves in a position where we couldn't follow our instincts. And through this line of questioning, we looked at each other and realized that we were actually both unhappy with how we were running Wistia. And we were unhappy because we'd sacrificed and we had tried to kind of grow at all costs. Yeah. I would say in hindsight, like partially due to imposter syndrome, like we'd actually built this really successful business that had a bunch of profit, and we instead ran it at a negative to try to search for extra growth, couldn't find it, couldn't figure it out. So then we lost the ability as a business to be as patient. A lot of the decisions we were making were really way too short term. And when you're profitable, you can look at something and be like, this is a good decision. I trust it. I believe it. Let's do it. I'm going to keep doing this until it works. When you're running at a loss, you can't do that often because you make the decision, you believe it's going to work. And then you're like, well, is it working? Is it every month you're questioning it? And suddenly maybe you stop doing it, or maybe you have too many of those things going at once. And so that's what was happening. And we just kind of felt like, look, building a company, like you have to get lucky. Part of it is luck and timing. Yes, I do think there are entrepreneurs who are going to be more successful every time they get up to bat, but there is an element of luck and timing that's out of your control. And so we felt like we'd been lucky that we even had a company that was as successful as Wistia was at this point. So we said, hey, let's just fix it. Let's just fix the problems we see. But fixing it was going to mean turning down an acquisition. You never know when acquisitions are going to come up. And that led us to this idea of, well, hey, is there any way we could kind of have like a reset with those early investors? Like we love them. We're thankful for them because they helped us, they helped give us the time and the space to actually experiment and grow. And also we have a team who has equity and we want to get them a return. So is there any way we could get these folks to return and then hit the reset button and keep going? And that led us toward this idea of raising debt and doing a buyout, and with something that's called a tender offer, where basically you give everyone a price, you give them all the same set of information, they get to decide, do they want to sell or not? And as a part of that deal, we hit on this idea of taking our investors that had preferred shares, that basically what that means, they had extra controls than like Brendan or I had. And we'll just say, like, hey, you want to do this deal? Just convert your shares from preferred into common like us. We'll basically all end up on the same side of the table. Brendan and I will take on the risk. Like it's our asset. If it doesn't work out, we're the ones that are screwed. But at the very least, you'll have gotten a return. Like emotionally, morally, we felt like we had taken care of the stakeholders. And then we said, all right, we got to get profitable to serve this debt. And we think we'll build a better business if we do that.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think in my mind, I imagine kind of the outside VC guys who were pressuring you guys to make the company you didn't want to make, but it sounds kind of mutual, right? Like you kind of, right? It's two sides of the same coin.
It was. I mean, I think our investors, of course, want more growth, just like everybody does. I think that the challenge, and this is where raising money can go really awry for folks, is like it creates different incentives and it creates different timelines that people need a return on. And so that is often where folks get into a lot of troubles. You have investors, and this investor needs their money out in 2 years, and this one says 5, and this one says 10. Well, it turns out you might do really different things. If you expect to get the money out in 2 years, you better maximize growth right now and do a bunch of short-term stuff. If it's 10, you can do a bunch of really long-term things, and you can sacrifice revenue growth today, maybe to get way more in the future. And so we were fortunate because our investors trusted us and were happy and thought they were getting a good return. But there definitely was pressure building because it had been a while since they invested. So they wanted something back. And this could satisfy them in a way that it could give us the freedom basically just to run it like it's our own company, which I know sounds kind of funny to say because we started it and we own most of it. But I think a lot of times when you put yourselves in this position, people don't even feel like it's their company. They feel like they're running somebody else's. Even though a lot of the best decisions you often can make is like when you treat it like your own. And so this is what it took for us to do that. I'm sure some people could have done this without doing the buyback part and just said, screw you guys, I'm going to do this the way I want. But for us, that felt like an important piece of the puzzle to really set ourselves up for the long term.
And setting yourselves up for the long term, the pivot that this led to, and some of the literature that I've read about, even some of the reasoning was around making sure that it was the right fit, making your company the right fit for people who do video. And I kind of almost sense this tone of both internally and externally, like the way you wanted the company for your team, but also for your customers.
Absolutely.
What were some of the first things that got changed?
Yeah. So, I mean, basically what we knew that when we're very long-term, we're often very aligned with the customer, right? Because if we make a bunch of decisions that are really short-term and it annoys the customer, we don't build great, like we build a bunch of features, but they don't fit together well, or they're really confusing, or they're only on the most expensive plan. What ends up happening is eventually you alienate some group of your customer base. And for us, like as small, medium-sized businesses, so like if we alienate them only to get big customers, you probably won't notice it in the next couple of years, but in like 5 years, someone might have built something that's better for them. And then you could screw ourselves or we could screw them because now they're switching and they're going to something else that they feel is like much cheaper or more aligned or whatever. And so literally just investing in that group and giving the features to everybody was something that we were like focused on.
Oh, wow.
We felt that like Wistia had permission to push the boundaries on like what it even means to market with video and communicate with video. And that for our brand, it was really important to do that almost as a way to show others what's possible. Because one of the most common, I still get this question all the time, but especially at that moment, like 2015, 2016, 2017, people are now gaining the ability to make video, but they're often still afraid to do it. And they would be like, well, my business is boring. I'm in a boring industry. How do I convince this person that we should use video? And I don't really believe there are any boring industries. I think it's just like lack of story. Like you need a story to compel people. So Wistia could be an example through our marketing. So that was one of the first things we did, said, okay, we're going to give ourselves permission to go wilder on the content marketing that we're doing. We're going to fix a lot of core things in the product, make the core things of the product faster, simpler, easier. And then we're going to give ourselves like the space to experiment with a lot of the new technology that is coming out that can really change how you make video. And we'll also do it profitably because we have to be profitable to serve this debt that we've raised. And we think that means that the culture of the company will tend towards being like this term we use, like, which is more talent dense. Like the people who are there really want to be there. There's a very, very high density of talent, which basically means if you join Wistia, a big part of why you're joining is to work with the people around you because they're so smart, so committed, and like going in the same direction. And so the cool thing was we did all those things and we essentially just got way more focused. And so while we became profitable, we noticed that the growth of our revenue, which we've been trying to increase and struggle to increase that much, the percent on a percentage basis, it actually increased once we had put ourselves in this position where we have the debt and we are profitable, which was so interesting because it's like, again, so counterintuitive. But I think really like the most simple lesson from it is this whole thing just forced focus and telling people where we're going. And so it was more likely if you joined the company, you knew exactly why we were going the way we were going, and you knew which customers we were trying to serve. And it simplified so many things that made it easier to do the things that actually were the most helpful.
Yeah. No, and I want to come back to the video marketing aspect. One thing it makes me think of, just to even share, one of the things that we've been doing as a video agency has been really focusing on honing in our service and very much productizing it into a very clear process. We make brand videos, 90 seconds, explain who a health and technology company is, and do it faster than any sort of, browsing of a website or salesperson can do. And I think in the honing of the message, when a company that is hesitant sometimes to do video content is being hesitant to do it. I think it's because their message isn't sharp. Actually, even the practice of trying to put it into 60 or 90 or 2 minutes is almost too daunting because their positioning isn't as sharp. It seems like when you guys made the change, your positioning began to your products began to, or features began to synchronize together into a more clean product. Then you were able to double down on the video marketing. What did you learn as a company starting that maybe others could learn who were in a similar place? They've begun to hone in their message better. And now they're thinking, man, video seems to be a good way to communicate this. Obviously, you guys had a lot of learnings from those early days.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a tendency, especially when you're small, to try to be everything to everyone because you're just desperate to get more customers. And a lesson that we've learned a couple times is by getting more focused, it usually doesn't get you less customers, it usually gets you more. Because if you're really clear about who you're for and what it is you do, those customers who that have a chance of that message resonating, they can actually hear the message and respond to it and say, do I believe this or not? But at least they can consider it. But then if someone's like not the exact customer, but they actually know who you're for, they can look at it and say, well, I know that these people say that they're for, video marketers, but like I need to communicate all these things internally, or I need to communicate these things to like this nonprofit group or whatever. And like, I'm essentially a video marketer for that group. So I know they say it's not for me, but let me take a look because I understand how it maps to my use case.
That's really good.
I think a surprising thing is like the bigger you get, the more you need to focus because usually getting bigger means your market's pretty big. Like you can't get big if the market's not big, right? So if the market's really big, the more focused you get, the more differentiated you can become, the more you can speak to exactly the right person. And I think we just forget how big the world is, 300 and whatever it is, 340 million people in the US, billions of people globally, billions of people with internet. Like you don't need to go after a very big sliver of the market to have on an absolute basis, a lot of happy customers if you can market and sell online. And so it's just kind of that simple thing. And I feel like we see this with the biggest brands in the world all the time. And we're like, there's people who, those messages resonate for, and then we judge for ourselves. We're like, yeah, Apple launched this thing. Is the Apple Intelligence any good? Well, yeah, I mean, I'll try it. I could use it in this way or that way, and this way or that way. But if they're not clear about who it's for, what it's supposed to do, we actually have a harder time making those connections. And so I think that's like kind of a counterintuitive thing that we learned there.
Yeah. And when you guys were first doing trials for yourself, what did those conversations look like then? Trials with video marketing, right? Outputting your own marketing content. What did those conversations look like then? And what does it compare to now and how you guys think about marketing the company through video?
So yeah, the first time I had made like screencast videos in the early days, okay, with no one on camera. And the reason was just sheer fear that if someone understood how small we were, how young I was, that they would not trust us. That was what we thought. So like the first 3 years of videos from Wistia, if you go find them, it's my voice over a screencast, no face. Like that's
the Wizard of Oz.
And then Chris Levine, who's our head of production now at Wistia, had been with us for a long time. He was like a friend of someone who worked at the company. And he came in and shot video of us working. And there were 6 people on the team. He just shot video of us sitting in the office, like flying my stupid little helicopter around the office. And there's like music playing. And he uses a chance to play with like 3D text. So he put like 3D text of our names up. So he makes this video. It says nothing about what Wistia is. It says nothing about what we do. It says nothing about being business. It doesn't look like it's incredibly clear that we're a small group of people, which again is what we're afraid of. We put it out there. We put it on Twitter. It gets onto Reddit, gets on like the front page of Reddit. It gets like more traffic than we've ever seen to our website, where it's like the team page where this video is. And we had a 2-week trial back then. 2 weeks later, we get like a ton of customers.
Jeez.
And it was just like, what just happened? I'd been writing blog posts like the 10 reasons why you should sign up for like professional video hosting. I was like, no ads, no related content. You control blah, blah, blah. This video that's like says nothing, but shows us. And that gets a bunch of customers. And then that happened again with like another piece of content. And the bell started to go off, which was like, wait a second. We're actually showing who we are. It seems like this would be bad for business. This is good for business. Like people like this. They like seeing behind the scenes. And it also was fun and silly. When we were fun and silly, like we were always having a great time doing the most ridiculous stuff in the office. I think a lot of this, the culture is born out of Brent and I being best friends from the first place. We're still best friends. And over time, we just gave ourselves more and more permission to have fun in the videos we were making. So we started making videos every time we launched a feature. I'll never forget, we launched a feature called Replace Video. Super simple. You have a video that's on your website, hosted with Wistia, you click replace, upload a new video, changes the video on the site. We did this because we were doing this ourselves. We had videos on the website now, and sometimes there'd be an error and we have to go back and change it. So how long does it take to build this? It took like 2 hours. So an engineer on the team made this like 2 hours. We thought we should make a video to show people this feature. Same day, we make a video, and it's like us showing like, it's like screeching to a halt basically when someone's on their website realizes that their logo is incorrect. They go to replace video, does it. We make this thing. It's funny, it's silly, it's playful, it's clear about what the product is. We're all in it. The cast of characters is like the team. This thing takes off. All of these, way more customers come in, and we're like, okay, this is it. Like, this is how it's supposed to work. And so we just kept doing that. And we kept finding that we didn't actually have to make videos about the product. We had to make videos about the mission. Like, we had to step away from just the product, but really have Wistia, the brand, be the place where if you come and you interact with us, like, we can help your business thrive with video. And like, it just kind of happened. And that led to all different sorts of things. You know, I mean, we've made a cartoon-based like series called Gear Squad versus Dr. Boring, which is like based on Inspector Gadget. We did 110-100, which is a feature-length documentary with the like $111,000 we gave to Sandwich Video. And they made 3 different ads for us at different budgets and documented that. It's led to tons and tons and tons of stuff. It was working incredibly well. But actually, this is a perfect example of something that was getting way harder to do when we were running negative. Because without even saying it, people would start questioning and be like, well, what is really the return of this? And these videos are so wild. Should we really, be doing this? Everyone just starts asking about the short-term return. And so it became harder to justify bigger things. And part of our growth strategy was like, we'll add more different types of marketing on top of this. And a lot of it didn't work. And so what we found our way back to when we became profitable again was doing stuff like 110-100, which came after that, I believe, and all these wilder, bigger campaigns, and basically just making something that was so good that it delights us and still lives this mission of like educating, pushing the boundaries, like showing you what's possible with video and trying to inspire ourselves and you. And like, how do you measure the impact of this? Like, it can be very difficult, but it's actually really easy to do if you're profitable and you believe in it. And so today, what you see from us is like, I would say on the brand side, like wild, crazy videos. Like, we had something that just came out today called Complete Control, which I know you just happen to see, which is like part of this like series of videos that we're making that all have like homemade custom songs that are made by like professional musicians, including like our VP of marketing, who is an amazing musician, and a bunch of other folks. Really rich, like big brand campaigns, almost like old school jingle style, like fun, irreverent concepts. And we do that and believe in it. And we've kind of pushed that, the stuff I was talking about before, to its extreme. And so let's go so far beyond what was possible before on the content side and make something that almost scares us because it's so creative and the budget is what it is and all these other things. And then now we also use video everywhere else. So it's not just on the brand side. It's every feature. It's monthly updates. Like, it's probably the main way that I communicate on LinkedIn is through video. And I have a podcast. It's a video podcast, and we take all the clips from it. And like, this has become, in all those places, we're trying to have the brand show through. But so much of it comes from those early learnings of like getting people on camera, not being afraid to show who we really are, trying to actually be authentic and trying to just push the boundaries. And if we do that, it tends to work.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought up the 110-100, which, you briefly explained, and people should go and check out that feature length with Sandwich Video, is excellent. And I think the comparison's kind of interesting. It's like there's almost a parallel to the one when you guys did the fly around the office video, meet the team, and it pushes, right? And then the 10 as you guys worked harder more, and now we're seeing you guys just shooting hundreds off the shelf now. And like you mentioned, that campaign's been launching recently. Today it came out with the AI created one. Can you tell me a little bit about the creation of that? Some of the theories you have going into that?
Yeah. So basically, this ad is called Complete Control. If you're listening to this podcast, you can see this on, like, we'll be sharing it on a lot of social channels. So just look for Wistia on like LinkedIn, and you'll find it. But basically, we knew we wanted to do something that was like pretty different. And so this is the third ad in a row where we've had this custom music that is about different things in Wistia. And kind of what we're doing is taking the product and putting it into the branded content. So the last ad was called Webinar Wizard. And it was about how we have a webinar platform, and there's a webinar wizard who helps you like look great on camera and feel great. And like, it's personifying that product, and it's silly over the top. And there's like magical effects happening. And there's a very silly wizard. But the song is like legit catchy. And so that was the idea of like, we'll like push it in this way. And Complete Control was like, okay, we want to do the same thing. We want to actually try this time, just talk about core things in the product. Like Complete Control is about having complete control of your videos. So not having related videos and not having ads and making galleries, the most basic stuff that's core to Wistia that we like really deliver well. And then we were looking, we've been playing with tons of AI at Wistia, starting to find places where it can add like a lot of productivity. And we've started using it to create all our animatics. So when we did Webinar Wizard, that was going to be a 6-figure shoot, but we had the video completed in animatics with generative AI for almost nothing. And that's how we first looked at it with the song and felt like, oh, this is really good. And it kind of gave us a taste. And so I think when we were looking at concepts this time, the Complete Control vibe, we were thinking like it would be like an 80s-esque vibe, like in an old school office of people like celebrating and being excited about this. And when we looked at what the budget would be to actually get the costumes and rent the offices and do the studio thing, we're like, well, this is going to be significant. How far could we take it with the generative AI? And so it was a combination of like creating stills and Midjourney, animating them with Runway, like adding in like layers of rotoscoping to add like the Wistia elements like on top of all of this. The song was written by our VP of marketing, like and another outside musician, and they put this whole thing together. And it was cool because even the musician that we worked with is like in a band that is known, and he's like, well, I can't have my voice in this. So we used an AI voice to clone him singing. And the goal here is that you would understand the message of what Wistia is, but there's like a meta message of like, hey, AI is almost here, but it's not yet. And so, which is like the message that you want the marketers and the video producers to take away is like, you've played around with stuff, you've seen it, like weird stuff happens. And so if you watch this ad very closely, there's a lot of hilarious like AI mistakes in it. Yeah. And we know that in like 2 years, probably there won't be, but today there is. And so it's another reason if you see it, like, what is this? These people are so happy, and there's like this weird look about this. Is this AI? And then you want to go back and watch it again. You're like, oh my gosh, when that guy turns, like a ponytail appears at the back of his head. And you start to notice the things, and it's kind of like a joke and also kind of showing where this stuff is at. And so, yeah, that's what Complete Control is. I'm so pumped about it, as you could tell. And it's also one of those things, as I was saying before, like these songs, these concepts just delight us. And usually if we can get to that place, then it usually also delights an audience, which is, like, again, a lesson to realize when you don't have the time to, and the patience and even the profitability to allow yourself to do that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a hard place. It's a hard place to be in, for sure. Get stuck there.
Well, you saw it. I'm wondering, like, your reaction when you saw it. Like, what was your first thought?
Oh, I mean, it was, well, so there was the great hook of, it was something like, can you see it, or something like that, or do you see it? There's some sort of hook there as a text hook. And so immediately it hooks me into be like, well, do I? And so I, continue to watch, and right off the rip, you're like, this is AI 99%. And watching through, you naturally start to look at the hands, and you're kind of just entertained by it being what it's kind of intended to be. And there was actually a component to it. It's funny, and maybe this comes from me just, running a video agency, is the message of complete control is, I think, the aspect that's, like you said, still currently missing from AI. Like, you continue to just, you're testing prompts, burning through coins or whatever the currency of the platform is to get something. And so what people find is like, oh, could you just AI that? You're like, maybe, but it's kind of like gambling every shot. And you're like, how much am I going to spend actually to get to this shot that I'm like really looking for? And so to me, the complete control message actually resonated there as well in terms of like, man, that to me was the meta aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think those things, if you can get them right, if you can be a part of the meta conversation, like you can make something that has resonance is a lot bigger than just being one ad. But that's cool. That's awesome.
So it's interesting. I always, every year, I love your guys' state of video report. I think it's super fascinating to look. And one of the things that came up was AI and its utilization. You've said you've seen a lot of overpromise, under-deliver from it. And I think that's kind of because it's like, hey, it can just make it like this. And it's what we talked about. Doesn't really do that. Only 14% of marketers from your report said that they don't plan to use AI tools or videos. And we have 59% of people using auto-generated captions or transcripts, which I thought the number for auto-generating captions would have been way higher because it almost doesn't even feel like AI. It's built right in.
Yeah.
And then the don't plan to use 14%, I thought felt kind of high. I thought more people would be trying it this year, but you guys have a new report coming out soon.
Yeah.
What are you seeing around what you think the trends are for people using it?
Well, I think one of the trends, again, these trends are continuing to shift where people are already using more AI in their video production. And a lot of people who aren't using it are planning to use it soon. So in my opinion, it's kind of like there's a cultural part of this too, right? Where the over-promising, under-delivering, a lot of people have tried AI and then like, this can't deliver. Then they move on. And then they don't want to go back to it. Are often because of like fear, right? Is this going to take my job? Is it going to negatively impact me? Very real fears, or just like they're busy. And so they're like, I don't need to get back to it. So the question is, when do the tools that they tested, when are they actually good enough that it will really help you? And we're starting to see that now, where there are like pockets where the AI is really delivering in like an incredible way and can allow us to do things that we couldn't do before. It's just not everything all at the same time. And so I think we're going to see that those numbers continue to tick up like pretty aggressively. Like one example of something that we have in beta now at Wistia. So this is not widely known. We've talked about it a little bit, but if you're in our beta program, you can go play around with this, is AI translations and dubbing. So if you have a video, you can go through and basically say, okay, I want to take this video and I want it to be in French. And it will clone the person's voice and it will have them speaking in French and it will render their lips to match the words they're saying. And it's like pretty amazing. It really, if you're not like covering your face with your hands, especially with shots like this, is like a stable shot, it looks pretty incredible. And this is one of those things that when I saw it for the first time and saw it working this well, I was like, man, this is going to change like accessibility where, even at Wistia, only 75% of the people who click play on our front page video is their browser set to English. So 25% of the audience is clicking play for a product that today, the site's completely in English, is actually their primary language is different. And so for all those people, they're watching the captions, maybe you get a translated caption. It's just a different experience when you could hear it in your own native language and you can see the lips moving and it's like pretty convincing. And so that's one of those ones I think wasn't here. Now it's here. And I think this year, like in 2025, we're going to see huge adoption of this because it's such a magical experience. And being online, so many of our customers do come from other places. And so, I think we're just going to see, it's going to be like that. We're going to see like discrete examples of it working really well. It'll get adopted. People try that once, doesn't work well enough. They think it's overhyped. They'll ignore it. And then again, that'll like keep ratcheting up until everyone's using it like every day.
Yeah. And I'm curious because that's kind of like, I would almost say like the front runners of people who are believers in video content. And I'm still kind of amazed. I mean, we have a new client this year who was so excited to get started because for the first time they really have like budget to start working with video. And they've dabbled in it like over the years a little bit, but now it's actually becoming a core part of their marketing, which to me, and again, I'm in the space, so it's like, man, this is 2025. Like, how is this just becoming a core part? Are you guys seeing that too? And
yes.
What are some of those early companies starting with?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the most wild thing for me about all of this, I said before, is like this just change takes longer than we think, Like, and culture can slow down change tremendously. So, I like to say like, even if the LLMs, like the language models didn't get any better at all from where they are today, if they were frozen in time, it would probably, even with what we have today, I would imagine the vast majority of the workforce will be using LLMs. It'll probably just take 10 years because it takes so long for people they often don't want to change until they need to change. Like COVID was interesting because we saw forced change, which we almost never see. And the forced change was you're at home, you're in virtual meetings. Oh, and also this means you're on camera. So all these people were afraid of being on camera. Now they're on camera. People who never thought of their computer as a camera, their computer as a camera. And that actually caused us to change a lot of our strategy because we felt this was such a huge cultural change. But getting back to your question, what I see is like kind of often the same, which is people are looking for something where they think if they're just getting started with video, where can I use it where it's I know I need to do it because if I go on any social media app, it's basically all video first at this point. If you're reading the news in the New York Times app, you're going to be watching the videos. But really, we know you're going to YouTube. We know you're going to TikTok. We know you're going to Instagram. So at some point, your brain is like, I need to do this. And so then I think it's like where are the low risk places or the places where it's going to have the biggest impact that you can go to. And a lot of the low risk places we see people start as internally because the risk feels so low. Like if you make something that's quote bad for the brand, it's not that bad for the brand. I mean, how many people have seen a corporate presentation with like bad memes and puns in it? Like that's extremely commonplace. Those people don't lose their jobs. They're just like, that wasn't the coolest thing ever. But if you do something that is cool in that context, you'll find that you'll be celebrated and people want to do more stuff like that. And so we see a lot of times people using internally. We see in like anyone who's selling something online that support is often a place where people want to use video early, walking through complicated processes that are actually pretty easy to help someone with, but like have to be done in a specific order or take time. And I think if you are ready to actually make video more a part of your brand more publicly, that's when you're going to have to find somebody, either someone who has the taste or the confidence internally or someone who has that taste and confidence externally to help guide you through it so that like you're doing it and you're increasing your chances of success and you're feeling comfortable with the risks associated with it.
Sure. Yeah, no. And I even think of, the folks that we work with, often we delight in getting some of those test projects to do because that trust is so critical because it's such a powerful medium with so much nuance to it to deliver so many emotional connecting points.
The other challenge with AI video is if you have it, let's say this doesn't exist yet, but let's say you just type something out and it creates a whole video for you. You need someone with taste to tell you why it's not good. Is it the script? Is it the shots? Is it the music? Is it the pacing? Is it the order you're telling the story? Is it the person who's on camera? And I think that that taste piece is really what you need to find, either internally or externally. You need to find someone whose taste you actually trust. And if you can do that, then you can increase your chances of success, whether you're using AI content or you're making everything with real people or you're doing it remotely, whatever. It all does really come down to that. And I just think that's important to highlight because I don't think you're going to get a lot of taste in the AI anytime soon.
Sure. Exactly. It is middle of the road, taste combined from the best to the worst to create something kind of mediocre. And I have a little bit of a hypothesis too. I'd love your thoughts and feedback on. Obviously, you have Talking Too Loud, all of your other, different outlets are focused still around your people. Even when it's, crazy motion graphic stuff, it's a lot of your people. I feel like AI or companies who want to use a lot of AI should be kind of cautioned around replacing their real people or their humans with it completely. I mean, from what you've said, it blew Wistia up to show the humanity of who the company was. Would you agree?
So, 100% agree. I think it's kind of like if you have a tool, I'll stick with writing. I think it's kind of easier to think about, but okay. ChatGPT, Claude, you can have them write amazing things if you have a great prompt today, really amazing. Should that mean that everything that you write is written with ChatGPT? I would say no, that would be a big mistake. There's lots of places where if you had ChatGPT write personal messages to people you care about, who you have a deep relationship with, probably not going to get it right. Probably going to look robotic, probably going to turn the person off versus turning them on. There's places where it would be totally fine to do. If you're trying to get an answer to something in real time and you urgently need the answer and you don't care if you talk to a person, you just need to solve the problem. Yeah, a really great implementation of ChatGPT writing all the copy for all these extraneous support cases you have might be super helpful. I think the job we have is to figure out where we should apply these tools today, and applying them everywhere just recklessly, you're going to miss big obvious things. Going back to video now, if we have an abundance of AI avatars, there's going to be places where AI avatars are really helpful. You have a support request, you want something in real time, you want to talk to somebody, you don't ever wait again on the phone. Like, that's the promise of this stuff. Great. You talk to a human being or feels like a human being, you get your answer. Fantastic. But let's say you're making a huge investment in anything, product, software, person, and you're gonna have to live with this investment for a long time. Are you going to want to know some of the people related to the investment to feel like you can trust them? Are you going to want to have seen them maybe in person or seen them at a live event or ask questions of them? And you want to understand how they think? Like, yeah, probably. And so I think what could happen is I think we'll probably see something where the person-to-person relationship actually becomes more important when you have like an infinite amount of AI influencers, right? Like you can already do this today. We could just you and I could make 1 million videos a day that have my face of me saying stuff. Seems to me like that'd be a pretty big mistake because it would hurt the brand that you have if you see like Chris Savage. But maybe on some other topics, it's like fine. But like the brand of the face and like knowing who somebody is and having the trust, I think is really what's going to become much more important. Because if you can't tell if something's AI or not, you're going to just discount to some degree. And if you could tell that a person made it, you're going to value it more. I think it's like going to a high-end restaurant and you're paying way more for the exact same type of meal, and you trust that the people there are so good at doing it. And if you knew a robot was just making it, it would be hard to believe that it was that good, even if it was, just because they could do it at scale, they could do it infinitely. It changes our value structures. And so we want scarcity. Human beings are going to become more scarce, and you should take advantage of that by finding people who can represent your brand and like putting them on camera and letting folks make that connection.
That's a really great take. And the restaurant metaphor is incredible and so true. Well, Chris, I appreciate your time today so much. And I guess I'd be amiss to not end with what has you talking so loud right now coming into 2025.
Yeah, I think right now I am just like all the stuff we're talking about, you can tell I'm getting pumped on. I'm an early adopter. I'm excited to like play with all the new things that are coming out and excited to figure out how they change, how we interact with each other, how easily and cheaply we can make things, how we can make things of much higher quality. And so, yeah, I'm mostly excited about all of this. And then like, I'm obviously super excited about everything we're doing at Wistia. Like I get up every day like happy and looking forward to like seeing what the day brings. So yeah, that's my answer there.
That's awesome. Well, Chris Savage, find him on LinkedIn, daily videos basically at this point. And so if you want more of this, definitely follow him on there.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.